I have always had trouble sleeping. I can't explain it, but I always feel like there's something floating just above me when I try to go to sleep. It started innocently enough, a small, nagging feeling at the back of my mind that I couldn't shake. But as time went on, the sensation grew stronger and more oppressive. I would lay in bed, trying to ignore the feeling, but it was always there, a weight that I couldn't shake off. I started to feel like I was suffocating, like I couldn't breathe. I would wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, my heart racing. I tried everything I could think of to fix the problem. I went to see a doctor, but they couldn't find anything physically wrong with me. I changed my bed, I changed my sleeping habits, but nothing seemed to help. One night, after yet another restless night of tossing and turning, I stumbled upon a website. It was a site dedicated to exploring the paranormal and the supernatural. The website was filled with stories from people who claimed to have had experiences with ghosts, demons, and other supernatural entities. Some of the stories were first-hand accounts from people who had been visited by spirits in the middle of the night, others were about unexplained occurrences that seemed to defy logic. The site was full of dark and eerie images, accompanied by stories that sent shivers down your spine. It seemed to be run by a small group of people who claimed to have had experiences with the paranormal. They offered advice on how to deal with spirits, how to protect yourself from evil entities, and how to avoid being possessed. As I read through the site, I felt a sense of fear and curiosity. Despite my fears, I found myself drawn to the website, unable to look away. I was desperate to find an answer. And as I was reading, I came across a story about a man who felt like he was being suffocated in his sleep every night. The story said that the man had been visited by an evil spirit, a spirit that was trying to possess him. I was skeptical at first, but something about the story resonated with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the answer to my problems. So, I decided to do some more research on spiritual possessions and sleep paralysis, trying to find any information that could help me. That's when I came across a section on the website that dealt with haunted people and cursed places. It was a list of locations all over the world where you could get help from others who had experienced the same, and even some experts. One of the people who wrote their experience on the website said that the place had the power to cure people of their sleep problems. I decided to write down the address and visit the location. The place was an old abandoned house in the countryside. People who had visited it claimed to have been cured of their nightmares and sleep problems. I knew I had to see it for myself. I didn't believe in the supernatural, but I was desperate for a cure. So, I set out on a journey to find the abandoned house. When I finally arrived, I was taken aback by its appearance. The house was old and run down, with boarded-up windows and an overgrown yard. But there was something about it that seemed almost inviting, like it was calling to me. I stepped inside, and as soon as I did, I felt a strange sensation wash over me. It was like a wave of calm that washed away all my fears and doubts. And as I walked through the house, I felt a strange presence, like something was watching me. I can't explain what happened next. It was like something took over my body and I was no longer in control. I was consumed by a dark and evil energy, and I felt myself being pulled into the shadows. I woke up lying in my bed, back in my own room. At first, I thought it was all just a bad dream, but as I looked around, I realized that something was different. The feeling of suffocation was gone, and I felt lighter, more at peace. But as I got up and started to move around, I realized that something else had changed. I felt different. I felt like I wasn't alone in my own body. I felt like there was something else inside me, something that had come back with me from that haunted house. I felt a sense of desperation, like I was running out of options. So, I decided to try and make contact with the spirit that was haunting me. I don't know what made me do it, but I felt like I had nothing left to lose. I tried to reach out to the spirit through a seance, using the instructions I had found on the website. At first, nothing happened. But then, suddenly, I felt a cold wind sweep through my room, and I heard a voice whisper in my ear. It was a dark, menacing voice, and it told me that it had been waiting for me. That was the start of my possession. The spirit took hold of me, and I started to change. I became cruel and hateful, lashing out at everyone around me. I started to see things that no one else could see, dark shadows that followed me wherever I went. And I started to hear things, whispers in the night, calling out to me. I felt like I was losing my mind. I was no longer in control of my own body, and I was scared. The spirit was feeding off my fear, growing stronger every day. And I was powerless to stop it. The people around me started to notice something was wrong. They could see the change in me, but they didn't know what to do. I was beyond help, beyond salvation. I was lost, consumed by the spirit that had taken hold of me. One night, as I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, I heard the voice again. It was louder than ever before, and it told me that it was time. Time for what? I cried. The voice laughed in a sinister tone. I was petrified. I had heard that voice before, the voice of the evil spirit that had taken hold of me. I didn't know what it wanted, but I knew that I was scared. The voice echoed through my mind, taunting me, tormenting me. And when it told me that it was time, I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I was filled with a sense of foreboding, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. I tried to ignore the voice, tried to shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. But it was no use. The voice was too loud, too insistent. I could feel the spirit inside of me, crawling and clawing, trying to take over my body and my mind. I lay there in my bed, paralyzed with fear, listening to the voice as it whispered to me. It told me things, terrible things, things that I couldn't unhear. I saw visions of horrors beyond my imagination, felt sensations that I had never experienced before. And all the while, I could feel the spirit inside of me, growing stronger and more powerful with each passing moment. And then, without warning, I heard a sound. It was a sound like no other, a sound that filled me with dread. It was a sound that I knew all too well, the sound of the spirit, trying to break free from inside of me. I could feel it, feel its power, feel its hunger. I was completely helpless, completely at its mercy. As the weeks passed, I noticed that I was starting to change. I was becoming more paranoid and irritable. I would hear strange whispers in the middle of the night, whispers that no one else could hear. I started seeing things in the darkness, things that were not there. I would hear footsteps in the hallway when I was the only one home. It all came to a head one night when I had a terrible nightmare. In my dream, I was being suffocated, just like I had been feeling every night. But this time, the pressure was so strong that I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was being pulled into the darkness, like I was being consumed by an evil force. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat and shaking. I felt like something had just tried to enter my body, like it was trying to possess me. I was terrified. I did some research and realized that what had happened to me was something called the minister's visit. According to the stories, a minister's visit is when a malevolent entity tries to take over your body while you sleep. The entity can enter you through your dreams and possess you, controlling your thoughts and actions. And the only way to get rid of it is by sharing your experiences with someone else who will listen. I was horrified. I had never believed in the supernatural, but now I was living it. I felt like I was losing control of my own mind, like I was being taken over by something dark and evil. And the worst part was, I couldn't bring myself to sharing my story with others with the ill intent to pass this entity on to them. The only two solutions seemed to be to let the spirit take over or pass it on to an innocent person or even a stranger and banish it from my life forever. But I was too scared. I was afraid of what would happen if I failed, if I was unable to resist the entity's possession and hunger for evil. I just tried to ignore it, tried to pretend like nothing was happening. But I knew it was only a matter of time before the spirit took over completely. That's when I realized that I would have to share my experience with someone who would listen. I am scared not just of the spirit, but of what it would do to me, to my soul. So here I am, telling you my experiences being haunted and controlled by the entity. Tormented by the things I can see and the things it's making me do. I am a prisoner in my own body. A host to an unknown entity hungry for evil. I knew that there was no escape from the nightmare I was living in, which is why I decided to share this story with you. To be free of whatever is consuming me.